Muneeza here. It is Ask Muneeza. We're doing a special Q&A until we fall back into like a more normal rhythm. So if you guys have not been catching up with my last live and kind of just seeing what's been going on here, there's been a lot going on. So I'm going to give you an update. So my family and I went away to Costa Rica, and we went away sort of kind of the last mid to last week of June. So you may have noticed that I haven't been on socials and I haven't been doing lives in a while. So we were away, and then we came back about 9 days later, and then the sound is muffled. Hold on, I have a remedy. I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. I keep forgetting. It's Instagram, so I have to add in. Okay, hold on. Headphones. Okay, can you hear me now? Is it clear? Is it clear? Is it clear? Let me know. Can you hear me now? Is it clear? Somebody let me know that the sound is working okay. Better. Okay. Better or clear? Much better. Okay. Good to know, good to know, good to know. All right. So basically, we have been, like I was saying, we were away, and we then, oh, my phone fell. Oh my gosh, guys. Talk about like issues today. It's a new tripod, so I'm testing it out. So obviously hopefully this will hold and it won't keep falling. Okay. Wow, guys. I can tell you I don't miss the problems with technology while I was away and I didn't have to deal with all this. Thank you, Isa. The tan looks good. Yeah. I posted about the sunburn. It happened. So let me give you updates, right? So we were away in Costa Rica, and we were away for 9 days, and then we came back, and then we had 10 families from my kids' homeschool class camping out here. And after they left, because the camp out schedule was kind of intense. The kids were up early. They were sleeping really late. So were all of we parents. We parents were like exhausted. I can tell you we definitely needed more sleep than the camp out kids were allowing us to have. So right after all the camp out finished and everything finished, and I was supposed to go back to work on Monday, but on Monday I was sick. Like, oh my God, high fever, all the blah blah. And I know that every time I don't sleep well or my sleep gets affected, my immune system is going to tank, and it always does. So people were like, oh, I'm sorry you picked up a bug while you were on vacation. I'm like, no, I was fine on vacation. I was well rested. I felt good, blah, blah, blah. So I was amazing on vacation. Vacation is not what did that. It was camp out that did that. That got us, actually not just me, but my kids too. So this week we spent in bed recovering. And so when people were asking me, are you okay? You got an IV. I got an IV because I needed an IV. I needed an IV with everything that had gone on, and lack of sleep and getting sick and dealing with the kids and all of that. So lesson learned always, which I always know, because in my home, I am known as the sleep dragon. Like the sleep dragon. Why do people call me the sleep dragon in my house? Because They know that mama doesn't negotiate on sleep. So for the first time in my parenting, mothering, my mothering life, I ended up compromising my children's sleep last week. And then people get sick, right? So I am, my teenage daughters tell me that I'm too strict with sleep, that I need to lighten up a little bit, that their friends all go to bed at like 11, and why do they have to go to bed at 9? And I'm like, girlfriends, like, any other parents here in that position where their teenagers are like, you put us to bed too early, we don't want to go to bed that early. But there's a reason, right? My kids end up getting a decent, like 10 hours, 11 hours of sleep, which they need, Lack of sleep wrecks anybody. And I think teenagers just become chronically sleep deprived because they're sleeping late, because everybody treats them like an adult, and that they can function on less sleep. And I 100% don't agree with that. I don't think teenagers can function on less sleep. I think that teenagers absolutely need more sleep than adults do. Adults could do with more sleep too, don't you think? We could all do with more sleep. So, Chrissy says they'll wish they could in a few years. Yeah, gosh. So, anyway, the sleep arguments happened last week with my teenagers, with the kiddos, and with their teacher who was here. I'm like, oh my gosh, I seem to be outnumbered, but I stood my ground, especially on one night. I was like, everyone going to bed now, and and I was not popular. I was not popular that day, but I was really, really like, everyone needs to sleep, because I could feel, here's the thing, I could feel my family going down. I could feel me going down. I could feel the kids going down. I'm like, it's not happening yet, but the day everybody left, everyone in my family crashed because everyone was struggling. And so I'm like, I love like putting out for a good time and doing all of those things, but I hate compromising sleep. So I know that it's kind of fun for people to like meet each other after a long time and stay up late and talk. Okay, do that on one night. But like, when you're staying up late and talking and chit-chatting, are you making up for it? Are you going to protect your body? Because one night of losing even an hour of sleep, it takes a week to kind of make it up properly and for you to feel okay. So if you're losing multiple hours of sleep every single night in a short span of a week, in the name of fun, it's eventually not that fun. I know when young people are so super excited about all that, be like, oh, but it's so good, like I got to stay up late. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what is that? Anyway, I will stop ranting. I did a mama rant. My children actually told their group, they're like, you guys shouldn't complain. Like, you guys are saying that why my mom is being strict. And they're like, actually, we go to bed at 9. So being up till like 11 is a really big deal in my mom's books. So, and so they were like, oh, you guys go to bed at 9. Like, we don't go to bed till like 11 or 12 or midnight. I'm like, they're teenagers, and not like, they're 13 and 14-year-olds. There should not be sleeping at 11, 12 at night. I'm sorry. They're even busting through that sacred sleep window, which starts at 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. In my opinion, I'm so unpopular with the whole sleep thing, you guys. Like, I'm constantly, people are not happy with me because I insist on, so after everybody left, I was like, 8 o'clock bedtimes, guys. And they were like, 8 o'clock? I'm like, you guys are not well. Like, everyone's crashing, everyone's in a mood, everyone's not cranky. Whew. So for those of you wondering why I had an IV, that's why I had an IV, because I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta start to feel better, because I cannot deal with the kiddos and me being down, and we just need to get on with it. So my husband came to me. He was like, you know what? All the other parents are going to probably agree with you. I'm like, yeah, I know. Like, but it's hard. It's hard being that bad guy, especially like, no, I don't mind being a bad guy, but it's hard being a bad guy in front of a lot of other children too, like not just your own kids. Like I can be the bad guy in front of my own kids, no problem, but like when it's a lot of other teenagers too, I'm like, man, I got my full this week. So now you know like why I was kind of out of it. And oh my gosh. So Elena Alexandra says, I'm always the bad guy with my child. Elena, I think you said you had a 6-year-old. Wait till you have teenagers. Everybody told me when they were little, wait till they become teenagers. Actually, I have to say my teenagers are like, I'm so grateful that they are as they are, because it's not as bad as, people have told me. And so, yeah, so it's just hard to be that bad guy. So I was bad cop. But I'm happy to be bad cop. So Roxanne Brown, yes, the whole point of talking about today was to talk about IV therapy and why. And so I posted that one post of me getting IV therapy, and then a lot of people started to ask questions about IV therapy. Then I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just going to answer them in one go. And then last night I wrote a blog post about IV therapy, because then all of your questions came in and they were so in depth, and I'm like, I'll answer some of them today, but look out for the post, because I already wrote it in a lot of depth. And I think that a lot of people kind of need to know more about it. Many people came to me after the post I did and said, oh my gosh, does vitamin C IV have corn in it? That's a very important thing to be aware of, right? So IV vitamin C, normal mainstream IV vitamin C has corn in it. It's corn based. It doesn't have corn in it. It's not like they add dextrose to it. It's not like they add corn syrup to it. It's derived from corn. It's derived from GMO corn. So, Lenita Pazmino, where in CT is there a clean IV place? I tagged them yesterday. So check my stories, Lenita, and you'll see it's Livation in Connecticut. The guy who does it, he's so aware. He has the vitamins, the corn-free stuff. He does not use preservatives in. So not only must it be corn-free, but it must also not be in a preservative like alcohol. So it's very important to learn more about this topic. Christina Wakely says, when my kids were little, they went to bed early and slept in, and everyone fought me. Now they are sleep deprived and cannot sleep and use CBD. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. That's what happens, you guys, when kids don't get good sleep as young people, as young children, and in their teenage years, then in their 20s and 30s and 40s, they get sleep issues. Children who sleep a solid sleep schedule throughout their young life actually don't develop sleep issues when they're older so easily, because that wellspring of sleep is full, right? Remember in thyroid healing, medical medium talks about this wellspring of sleep that we have. So when you've lost that wellspring and it's in debt, and if it's in debt from a very young age, then you suffer. You always suffer. My mom was a sleep Nazi too. She really was. And I attribute a lot of like our good routine habits that we developed to give us a foundation for, it's just a foundation for well-being, right? Routine and rhythm matters more than anything you know. In fact, there's a meditation or I think healthy routines that medical medium also talks about. And I love that he talked about that, because I've studied, Waldorf education for children, and they talk about rhythm and routine and rhythm and routine and rhythm and routine for children from babyhood, right? The moment your baby's born, you should have a rhythm and a routine. What happens to a lot of first-time parents when their babies are born, they end up, the babies are born and they literally end up keeping the baby and the parents' routine, which is often young parents who don't yet have children may not have a very solid routine. They're young, they're free, they're not committed by a routine, so they kind of wake up when they want to, they sleep in when they want to. But those routines are not healthy for children. So the moment your child is born, you want to establish a routine. You want to put them to bed the same time every single night. You want to eat meals at the same time every single day. This helps children's nervous systems become regulated. Because if children don't have routines, they don't become regulated. They become very dysregulated. And children actually needs boundaries to, they need boundaries in order to feel safe, right? So routines are boundaries. Routines are boundaries. And the more strictly you stick to a routine, the safer your child feels, the easier your child is to manage. And we stuck to crazy routines when the babies were little. I mean, like, we did not veer off. Our family was like, oh my God, you guys are like such like crazy parents and you don't have any flexibility with your children. But we knew like if we changed the routine, your child wouldn't sleep. They would maybe go to bed late, they would be cranky, and then they wake up at the same time every single morning and they haven't gotten enough sleep, and then they don't get their naps, and then who has to deal with the fallout of that? You have to as a parent. You're dealing with the fallout of that. So that's absolutely no fun. And so like I am really strict as a parent, really strict about routines, about rhythms, about following. You know, I give my teenagers a little bit more leeway because that's okay. But with my 9-year-old and my 10-year-old now, so clear on routines. And she has to follow those routines. She has to go to bed at the same time every day, wake up at the same time every day. And I know it sounds like, oh my gosh, it's so boring. But routines are cycles of life. Like even nature has cycles and rhythms, right? So it helps us feel safe. Maria Erb says, I went to a Waldorf school. I love the safe feeling that I got from there. The safe feeling comes from being held so tightly and lovingly in a routine, in a rhythm. I'm CP says, I used to leave parties and barbecues early because my boys had to be asleep at a certain time. I never wavered. So good, because it keeps your life sane when you stick to routines. My Healing Lifestyle says, I always had a strict routine with my son. It's so important. Anne says, super strict with our routines, even little details like getting my little one turn off her light and close her doors. Yes, those little things matter so much. We used to read a bedtime book. We read for the same time every single night. Same with my kids. They would do their brushing their teeth routine. They would nighttime routine. When they were little, I used to do foot massages for each of them before they went to bed. So my hubby and I would take turns because there were 3 of them. So, you know, I do a mini foot massage, get some lavender, and oh my gosh, like the kids loved that. You could tell that they would just kind of relax and be like, and on a day, say we couldn't do the massage routine, they would be like, Mommy, can I get extra 5 minutes of massage because I missed mine yesterday? It's just like the value of protecting the nervous system is so important, you know. And I think that life will take all that away. So in their childhood, protect it as much as you can, because you don't get a childhood back. And if you can protect that nervous system and keep that nervous system relaxed and without any stress as much as possible, then when they grow up, they have so much more strength to continue. And of course, it's different when your kids are sick when they're little, right? When they're sick and they're little, then they're already coming in with a nervous system that's struggling. So even more, you need to protect those routines and give them that sense of space and rhythm every single time. Art Forever says, I go to sleep at midnight and wake up every night at 3 and 5:30, go to the bathroom, and I'm only getting 3 hours or so sleep in 2 chunks. Yeah, that's not enough. I mean, for anybody, right? Like, not just you, but people who are chronic illness, struggling with chronic illness, we struggle. Our sleep is one of the first things that gets affected. And coming back and protecting that sleep space is actually so healing to the rest of your body. I know there's some people who truly struggle with sleep. They have like massive issues with sleep, like true insomnia. They get an hour a night. They try, they're in bed. They're doing all of the things. They're taking all the supplements. If you're a person who does sleep, and you can sleep like 3 hours, like Art Forever 144 describes, then do more for your sleep, right? Take the sleep stabilizer, brain shot from the brain saver books. I do that one. Do the sleep smoothie, which is a cherry mango smoothie combined, which helps you sleep. Take the sleep supplements, magnesium, melatonin, GABA. How I re-regulated my kids was putting them back on magnesium, melatonin, and GABA. I'm like, you guys need to take that this week because we're re-regulating sleep. I'm not dealing with this one more single night. They're like, oh, it's too early. I'm not tired yet. I'm like, I don't care. Take the supplements, get your butt in bed, and lay there, and you will fall asleep. So, yeah. So, you can use the tools to help you and help your kids too. Lanita says, would you recommend an IV for teen kids? Yes, I would. If they really need it, if there's a reason for a teen child to get an IV, absolutely they can get one. Dana Marzano says, following a routine helped me heal so much. Going to bed and waking up at the same time every day. It makes a huge difference. Jenny says, my kids started sports and I cannot believe how late things go for kids at a young age. Rethinking singing and then up again. Yeah, I mean, I have a friend whose kids do baseball and they're little, like 6 and 7 years old. The games don't finish till 10 p.m. Whoa, that's late. That's late. I know that people, do those things for their kids because they find it important, which is fine. Like, you have to make that family decision. But if your kids sleep in the next day, okay, that's fine. But if your kids are up at the crack of dawn at 6 a.m., 7 a.m., they're not getting enough sleep, then I would reconsider those things. Yes, Maria Herb says routine gives them foundation for their whole life. Benuhin says people always said quit your kids, we'll be fine. Live a little. I was so strict on sleep and naps. People tell me that all the time. Live a little. That statement, oh, live a little. I'm like, live how? Like, live tired? Live struggling? Live... I'm choosing to live a little. The strictness helps me live a little. So you guys see, right? So how much are we talking about? Wendy says, this is so precious. Elena says, we're on a routine too when he's in the school. A bedtime is 7:50 to 8 and summer 8:30 to 9. And then summer I put him to sleep in the afternoon too. That's really good. Elena. Magdalena says, when my parents had a sleeping routine for me when I was a child, I would wake up early to school on my own and be fresh. And after the MMR juice at 12 years old, I started to suffer from insomnia. Oh, I'm so sorry, honey. Is vitamin C recommended for insomnia? No, it's not recommended for insomnia directly, but it is supporting the adrenals. Vitamin C is a massive support for the adrenals. People say a lot, LOL. Always have advice when no one asks them for advice. Heck yeah. Late sport practice and then they have to get up and go to school. It's so messed up. It trains them to reach for caffeine, and that's exactly what I ditto had this conversation with my children last night, right? That's what I was trying to explain to them. They're like, Mom, so why is it so important? They were being curious. So I'm like, why is it important? Because when you protect your sleep, you're not reaching for all this other shit that they have outside for you. I'm gonna let it rip because I'm ranting today because I'm like, I'm so over this idea of like being the bad guy because I was strict with my kids. I'm like, I don't care. Like, because they're going to pull you into the caffeine spiral or a drug spiral or whatever else I need to numb out on spiral, or whatever else is not going to make me feel fatigued spiral, or whatever else is going to, like whatever else people want to like literally basically create a trap for the kids and trap them into this stupid effing agenda of caffeine or dependency or alcohol or smoking or vaping or whatever else it might be, right? So I'm sorry, but like it is completely unacceptable. The foundation of good sleep is what prevents them from getting into these crazy cycles. It's college life too. I mean, like college life. Can we talk about college life for a minute? College life is probably the most insane routine that exists. I mean, people are like, oh, they're 18, they're adults. First of all, let's just be real. Insurance companies for cars, your car insurance company does not lower your child's premiums until they're 25 years old, because it is a well understood fact that human judgment matures at 25 years old. So at 18, they're still kids. And I tell my kids all the time, as long as we are supporting you, you're not independent and you're not an adult. You're an adult when you can financially support your life fully from top to bottom. You are completely responsible for your housing, your utilities, your food, your everything. That you're not depending on parents to provide you that. And I have no problem providing that. I have no issues with that. My issue is you thinking you're independent at 18, which I'm sorry, but the way it's been set up, it's set up by darkness to have our kids get trapped. And I tell my kids this almost on a weekly basis because they're getting older and suddenly there's requests to learn driving and when can I get my license? And all these questions come up and I'm like, well, let's talk about all of that, right? So, Walk Upon Water 144 said, I homeschool my kids. They never went to college. They're all entrepreneurs. I love that. That's super cool. I'm CP says, Starbucks is on college campuses open 24/7. It is. It literally is. Elena says, when my son goes late to bed, he craves sugar in the morning and basically is basically up all day. He will eat lots of fruits and stop craving it. T. Madron says, I was strict about my kids' sleep routines. There was more difficult for them to keep good routines during university years, but now as adults they're strict about their sleep routines. That's good. That's really, really, really good. But yeah, so many of you are jumping in on this conversation, right? I mean, like, it's protecting sleep. Remember how Anthony says, right? He says about the adrenals, protect your adrenals like they protect gold at Fort Knox, right? So me protecting my kids' sleep is exactly that. It's protecting their young adrenals so that they don't get tapped out at a young age at all. Like they keep that battery power for the rest of their life because they're going to need it. And there's going to be enough things in life that keep them not sleeping or up late, not getting enough rest. It's going to happen. It doesn't need to happen this young. And it can happen when it's the right reasons for it to happen. But I don't even believe that college life is a good enough reason. I don't believe that children who are up late at night, partying, drinking, even studying, like are setting themselves up for good learning. You don't learn well when you're tired. You don't learn well when you're hungover. You don't learn well when you've not been sleeping at night. You don't learn well. Your cognitive brain shuts down. You have not enough glucose. I mean, I could go on and on about these issues, right? But our society is set up to trap our children at every single event, every single stage. How do you protect that? We have to do things so differently, you guys, to protect our children. And it means going against the grain in all of these ways, like fighting for them, even in these little moments. The way society is set up, it is literally, it sucks the way it's set up. So Sarah says, can you stop an 18-year-old from going out and drinking? So in our culture, we're Muslim. We don't drink. And it's a religious thing. So that's off the table anyway. And because of our religion and our faith, we are also strict, and it applies the same to drugs, smoking, and other things, like poisoning your body. There's a concept in Islam called tayyib, and I believe it exists in other faiths too, but tayyib means cleanliness, purity. And how do you maintain purity? Like, you have to maintain as much purity as you can. So when you teach that concept, you live that concept, you model that concept, and other family members model that concept too, that it's something that I'm hoping that my children won't do. Can I guarantee that they won't? Can I have that confidence to be like, oh, they'll never make that? No, I don't, because I can never speak for somebody's free will. But I hope that that learning is enough that they have a foundation that they won't go do that. However, in a family who's not, say, coming from our kind of religious background, because, I mean, I know the strict Jewish families also don't drink, but in people who are not from those two faiths, I think maybe Jainism, there's a few other faiths where drinking is not okay. But how do you stop people from drinking, right? So I knew a guy, he was Jamaican, he used to be my old boss back in the Middle East where I used to work, and he was a teetotaler. And in those days, people were like, why are you a teetotaler? And I get it now. He was modeling for his children that he didn't want them to drink, right? Not that he would like stop them or force them to do a certain way, but he was modeling to them that drinking isn't healthy. And I think that it has to begin with our own homes, because society has made alcohol the most widely accepted addiction and poison available everywhere. It's everywhere. So I think that's like, I think in families where drinking is common, you have to start to model it. I know people will call you crazy. I know they will, right? They will call you crazy. They will say that, oh, you can just have a drink, there's no problem, just one drink doesn't do anything, blah, blah, blah. But drinking even a little bit of alcohol is poisonous. So how do you teach that? You have to teach that, you have to model it, you have to talk about it with your family from a young age, you have to share the research with them, you have to start talking about why it's not sexy to go get hungover or go get drunk, or what that does to your brain, teaching them what goes on, educating them about what actually goes on in their brain. So is so critical for them to make better decisions when they're older. So for us here in our home, we don't just rely on the religious faith piece to talk about alcohol. We also talk about the dangers of alcohol in depth. Like, we have read the alcohol chapter, addiction chapter, and what alcohol does to the brain from Brain Saver together. Like, I'm reinforcing these concepts in my children. Like, it's not just me saying it, right? This is what's going on in your brain. You will feel crappy. My husband drank when he was in college. It's the only time that he drank. He never drank before college. He got influenced when he went to college, and he drank. And he tells the children what he went through, right? So as a parent, he's like, I would never do that again. If I had known all of this, that was a mistake that I made. And I would never do that again. He said, I know that I've hurt my liver a lot. I know. So, like, we're honest with our children. I have never had a drink in my life. So, and so also my children happened to smell the smell of, I think, beer or alcohol. We were out somewhere and they smelt it, and they were like, oh, that's gross. What is that? I'm like, that's the smell of alcohol. And they were like, oh my gosh, like, for real, Mom. For real. So I just want to come on, you guys, and talk about, talk about these topics that affect our families, they affect our children, they affect every day, they affect how we live. And so many of you are having sharing some amazing comments here. Let me read some of these. Unfortunately, my husband's model is the opposite. I'm sorry, Elena. You know, you guys need to talk about it as a family. Magdalena says, I love Islam, started diving into it recently. I also heard that in Mormon religion, coffee is forbidden or to drink because it's not healthy or something like that. Oh, I had not heard of that. That's interesting. Christina says, so true. I was pressured into skipping my kids' naps and going to storybook land. And I said no, and they need their naps, and eventually they would have sleepovers and couldn't control it. Yeah. Oh, that's why we don't do sleepovers. We don't do sleepovers, because if you sleep over at my house, you're going to bed at 9. Nobody wants to come sleep over at my house. Miss Lady says, I am near New Orleans, and it's so commonplace here growing up. Yeah. Jennifer says, everyone at work thinks I'm crazy because I say caffeine's a drug. 100%. Tamika says, absolutely every movie, series on mainstream glorifies alcohol and now cannabis and coffee, Tamika. Right? I'm a fan of Grey's Anatomy. I'm just a fan of medical shows because I've watched them since I was a little girl. St. Elsewhere was a show when I was a kid. It used to come on TV in Kuwait where we lived. And I would watch that because I was just like, I loved like watching doctors at work and stuff. Anyway, so I know some of you are thinking, why would she watch that show? I watch it because I like to see what trends are showing on TV and what to protect my kids from. It's a big reason why I watch. But also I love medical shows. And I go in my head, because they're like, oh, like I've worked with so many of the diseases that actually come up in the show. And I'm like, oh, man. And I'm rolling my eyes going, oh my gosh, I can't believe, there was a show recently on Grey's Anatomy. They were talking about Peyronie's disease. And Peyronie's disease was, it's a disease where there's a curvature in the male genital, right? So it becomes hardened, and it's hard to be able to engage intimately. So they were doing surgery for that. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's like, clean your diet up, take those toxins and metals out, and I've worked with cases where it's gone away. So I'm like, you don't need surgery for that. So anyway, I do that. I watch it sometimes. So Christina says, I gave up drinking 2.5 years ago when I found and coffee at the same time. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so I was talking about Grey's Anatomy, like every single episode, multiple times, they're handing each other coffee cups or glasses of red wine. Yeah, Elena says, I'm called crazy and strict all the time for not drinking or offering my son fruits and meditations instead of PlayStation and chips. Go mama. I love that. Sarah says it's a good idea to read the book to the kids. Yeah, read the books together. Make it a collective exercise. Yeah, Jonathan says it's holding a lot of people's lives together from the fatigue and health issues. Absolutely. I Smile says, I'm the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, formerly Mormon Church. We also don't drink or do drugs. That's amazing. Hey Zazie, nice to see you here. How are you doing? Yeah. Lisa Marie says it's awesome that you've never had a drink. I'm very grateful that I've never had a drink of alcohol, except by accident. One sip of tequila in a daiquiri one time. But never drunk, ever really. Katie Binkley says, makes me so nervous for my daughter to go away to college in 1 month. Keep checking in with her. Teach. You have to educate them, and then you have to trust them, Katie, right? You have to educate and trust them. So, Lisa Marie says, as says, they call it spirits for a reason. It's 100% correct. 100% correct. Benuhin says, you are 100% right on modeling. Alcohol is the root of all evil. It is the root of all evil, as is caffeine. My family has passed drinking down through generations. I've had my own battle with alcohol, clean 12 years. Oh my gosh. I am so proud to hear that. That's amazing. Burning around town, Ella. Hi, Ella. My mom says my mom was strict about alcohol, and my dad would bring beer for adults at the birthday parties. That's funny. Tamika says, so crazy how they make coffee seem so glamorous when it dehydrates us. Tamika, but it doesn't just dehydrate us. So it's funny. Grey's Anatomy, they were talking about this woman who drinks teas, right? And the doctor's telling her, oh, but they're so dehydrating, with a cup of coffee in his hand. And I'm like, I see what you did there. I see what you did there. Gilmore Girl makes the addiction to coffee normal. Oh my gosh. Isa, the coffee stuff is everywhere. That's called kind of manipulating you, controlling you through visual cues. It's a form of neurolinguistic programming, which is why, like, unless you're strong enough to go watch shows like that, because you're so strong in it, you're like, I'm never gonna like waver. For young people, it's not like that. They get pulled into it. Whew, they get pulled into it. Every movie or show has people drinking wine or doing coffee. The show on Netflix, The Diagnosis, I watched that one and figured out what's really going on with those people. Yeah, it's just fun to do it, right? I Smile says, my church also doesn't drink coffee. That's interesting. Yeah, so how do you support the body when you work at night? That's such a good question. So if you're up at night to go to work, right? So you have to catch up on your sleep in the day, protect your adrenals, do lots and lots of glucose and mineral salts at night to help you get through the night. Do ashwagandha, do licorice root. And in the morning when you're off work and you go back, take your melatonin, take your sleep supplements in the morning before you go to bed. So you basically switch up your cycle, but you still get enough sleep in the day. So make sure, so people who often work all night don't get enough sleep during the day. They don't catch up fully. That's the problem. So if you catch up fully, then you'll be okay. Lenita says, my family's from Europe and I come from a long lineage of drinking daily, sadly. Oh, yeah, I know. Hand Right to Heal, wow, the show Friends is basically set in a coffee shop. It is, and that fact is not lost on me. It's still one of my favorite shows, though, because it's just funny. It's just funny. I've never had an interest in alcohol due to growing up around alcohol, as my dad drank. Didn't like the attitude of everyone who drank, no matter if it was one or more drinks. They changed instantly. They did. You know, when I went to college, I was in London, and I went to London Business School, and there was a bar whose door opened into the lobby of the school. Okay, first of all, I'm like, what the heck? And so the students would literally every Thursday night, it's like a big drinking night in London. So everybody would go drinking on a Thursday night. They would invite me. They would be like, Muneeza, you should come, you should come, you should come. And I would come just to, like, I used to be curious. So I would go and I would sit there with my like cranberry juice in my hand and maybe a little club soda. And they'd be like, what you drinking? I'm like, I don't know, like wine. And I started saying wine because they would stop bothering me. If they thought I was drinking cranberry juice, they wouldn't stop bothering me. They're like, can I get you some wine? Can I get you some of this? Would you try this? Try this drink. I'm like, I don't want to drink. So, and I like literally within 30 minutes of being at the bar, watching my classmates drink, nobody was able to hold a sane conversation anymore. Like, I was there completely sober, never had a drink in my life. I'm sitting there trying to have a conversation, and the conversation quality would just devolve into nothing. And then I would leave and go home. And I didn't have a car, thank God, because everybody would then make me the designated driver, and I didn't want to be driving around a bunch of drunk people. So I would just walk to my apartment, to my flat, and leave every single time. And after a while, I'm like, you know what? I would time it. I'd be like, I'm here for 5 to 10 minutes. And then I would just leave. And people were like, but they were already starting to get kind of drunk and kind of, you know, lose their inhibitions or what have you to even notice. So, Goodbye Guinness says, my daughter passed in January and the only thing they could find in her system was caffeine. Oh, I'm sorry, honey. I'm so sorry you lost your daughter. It will really ultimately kill you. It's all part of a system that causes total disruption in your body. Oh my gosh, Goodbye Guinness, I'm so sorry you lost your daughter. That has to be like the hardest thing to go through, and to watch that happen and to find out that she had caffeine in her blood. Caffeine does kill. It does kill. It's just a slow death. It's like a death by 1,000 cuts, right? And caffeine probably takes up like 200 of them. So, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry to read that. Yeah. Ivy Blue Light says being sober is such a flex. It's such a flex. I love that you said that, Ivy. Sarah Dillon, oh, you look good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. A little bit of holiday sunshine, right? Miss Lady Lex, this is so true. The projection of demanding someone else drink something is so incredible. Oh, it's like the pressure they put on you it's awful. Jenny Ann says the pubs in England, my mom's small village where she was from had tons of pubs. Oh, they had pubs everywhere, right? That was me in college. I say you didn't drink in college? That's awesome. Amber says, I 100% bartended for years but didn't drink. Everyone gave me a hard time for not drinking. Everyone gave me a hard time too. And I had thought I had a solid reason. I'm like, my family doesn't drink. I don't come from this tradition. I don't want to drink. People didn't care. Lupus Free with Celery. I didn't try alcohol until I was 40, and I quickly decided it was not for me. I never drank in college. That's really cool. Roxanne says, I love all of your stories. Oh man, I got stories for days. But I just want to share. I think, it's important to come together to have a conversation about what good health habits we get like given a hard time for. Caffeine, not having alcohol, not having drugs, not having cannabis, not sleeping late, right? Which is where this whole thing started and this whole discussion started. Ella says, people think it's rebellious to drink and do drugs, but I always thought not doing that is more rebellious because you're standing against peer pressure. That is 100% correct. Because you are standing against peer pressure, because you're standing up for yourself, you're going against the mainstream. Here's how darkness works. They wanted a culture of alcoholism. They wanted an addicted culture. So they do it. The strategy. Let me tell you a strategy that darkness uses. The strategy is that they don't have to be the authority making something happen, that you have to bow down to an authority. What they do is they create a culture, and then you get peer pressured by your friends and family, not an authority. You don't have to look very far. Look at what happened in the pandemic. The authorities weren't the only ones telling us to do certain things. There were friends and family who were insisting we do certain things in order to meet with them, in order to connect with them, in order to come to Thanksgiving, in order to come to Christmas, in order to come into the house, in order to touch the kids. Do you see how that works? This is how society works. This is how darkness works. This is what they do to take over the society, and how people get duped and taken over into it because individually we're not strong enough to fight back to the peer pressure or to like the whole campaign that gets talked about and launched. Then everyone starts talking about it because there isn't enough fury amongst the people to fight back. People need to have more fury to fight back. They need to be enraged and to start campaigns and to fight back. But because it's everywhere and it's more global and it goes out on a mass scale, we don't do that. And they bank on the fact that we don't do that to win. So, it's a really big deal and it's very sad. But they use people to further their agenda. Like, for example, think to the Holocaust. It's not that long ago. And think to, it wasn't just the authorities who were seeking out certain types of individuals. It became your neighbor. It became, because when you have this going on, people lose the sight of the truth. They lose sight of the truth. And also remember, law, something that is law, doesn't mean it's moral or ethical or right. Because the law isn't always moral, ethical, and right. Sometimes it is, but when it's not, you have to fight back. It's a big, big topic, you guys. It's a big, big topic. And unfortunately, it is the strategy that darkness uses to operate in this way. It's a strategy that darkness uses. It's really awful, actually. It's really, really awful. And it's about how, but it's not just control, right, Abby? It's about how they do it. It's so insidious. It's hidden. It's dark. It's hard to see. It's under the surface. So unless you are smart enough to figure it out, or have knowledge to figure it out, or know how to look for it, or know that you have been guided by God to find it, because seriously, like, you can easily be duped. I've been duped. I know better now, but I pray to God every day for the light, to show me the light, to show me the truth. And I mean it for real. Like, we have to beg and pray and really want to see it. And that's the only time we will see it. Because it's like hard to, it's like, okay, so think about this fabric that I'm wearing, yeah? So I'm wearing like this linen cotton fabric, and say this is like, this is how darkness works. So this is this linen cotton fabric, and supposing they wanted to hide something in this fabric, they might choose a color, say dark brown or gray or navy blue, and they hide it in this fabric. How hard is it going to be for you to find that? First of all, you're going to have to know to look for it. How hard is it going to be for you to find that? That's exactly the metaphor you want to apply when considering how darkness operates on duping society. Because snakes hide. They're venomous. They have bad intentions. I mean, I don't mean like the actual snake, but like the metaphor of what that means, right? They hide, they're full of venom, and they'll attack, but they'll operate in hiding. And so this is how it all works. They operate in hiding. They infiltrate. They create impurity where there was purity before. But they don't just come in and put like if in clear water, throw like a whole bunch of black paint so you can obviously see it. They're never obvious. They're always hidden. They're always behind the scenes. And so if you find yourself getting exhausted talking to people about how bad alcohol is or how bad caffeine is, keep freaking talking. Keep doing it, because it will take more and more of those conversations. You have to remind yourself, I am not the crazy one. I am the one speaking God's truth. I am not the crazy one. They want me to think I'm the crazy one because I'm speaking God's truth. So, it's so deceptive. And yes, Jenny Ann, it's perversion. The good is bad. The bad is good. You know, think of all the things that have become perverted in our lives, where plants are poisonous. Plants are medicine, but medicinal plants are poison. Think of that. Everything is upside down. This whole, also, maybe one day I'll rant on another live about sex positivity, because oh my gosh, that sends me into a tailspin. because that's another massive trap for our young people especially. So I used to fight all that stuff, and I can tell you, after knowing what I know now, I know why God sent the Torah and the Bible and the Quran to help us teach us about what is holy. What is holy? What does God want? So, yeah, the whole question about sex promotion, it's actually that caffeine, alcohol, and sex are like the young person trap. And it's just horrible. Horrible. And yeah, and like Elena Alexandra, you'd love to talk about that. I will talk about sex on our next live, and sex positivity and sex in society and sex. I'm going to be the bad guy again, but I don't care. Because people need to say it. It needs to be said. It needs to be talked about. It's absolutely horrendous what is happening to our young people. Amberlyn Stone. Hey, Amber. Purity is the best decision ever. 1,000% yes. 1,000% yes. Like those women and men who want to save themselves for the person they marry, that is holy. And when I said things are being perverted, that's what I mean. Like, that's a perversion of taking what is holy and making it completely not popular, making it not sexy, making it not fun, right? Making it old-fashioned. Like, yeah. If that's the case, I am as old-fashioned as they come. Like, I should be like 500 years old. So, Walk on Water says, I waited and my husband was my first and only 33 years married. I love that. That's so beautiful. Magdalena, I agree with your comment. It's all what the communists were preaching, the sex positivity, and to destroy families with the hookup culture. That is exactly right. Destroying the family culture is a huge agenda of darkness. Destroying mother's authority is a huge agenda of darkness. A huge agenda of darkness. So, did you know, Heal with Celery Juice says, did you know kids say losing your virginity is called swiping your V card? I did not know that. That is awful. Yeah. But there are traps everywhere, right? So I know we didn't talk about vitamin C questions, but the blog is coming because I wrote it yesterday. All of your questions are incorporated into the blog post, so don't worry about that. Jenny Ann says, you're an old soul. A-Dub spoke about past lives on his epic live yesterday. Yeah, I know. The live was so good. Elena says they target children. What they do now about, that topic. They target children now. They're destroying families and genders. We had to transfer our son out of school. Oh, loss of values in our society is a big tragedy. Yes, Neely, it is absolutely the worst tragedy I think that exists, because it's targeting our children and how to capture children into this whole thing. So, Heal with Celery Juice. The timing of this is so perfect for me. I needed a mom pep talk. Hey, you guys, anytime you need a mom pep talk, hit me up, because these are my favorite things to talk about. Because I struggle with these issues too. I mean, I'm not the only one in isolation, or I don't have like a special bubble around me. I'm in the society too, right? And I got into, if you have just started following the live and joining the live, go back and watch at the beginning. I'll tell you why I was ranting today, because I literally was I literally was like in trouble with my kids' teachers because I wouldn't let them stay up late. And I had to take a stand. I became a little bit of my sleep dragon came out. Like I was breathing fire. I'm like, oh, yeah, no, sorry. Love you, but no. Yeah, Roxanne says mom pep talk. Yeah, man, don't we all need it? Like we need to be able to connect as parents and have these like parent level conversations. Hi, Teo. Parent level conversations about how caffeine, alcohol, sex is basically destroying our children. And it's setting them up to destroy our children. It blows my mind. Hello from Scotland. Scott's healing. Unfortunately, society now has changed for the worse. I wish things were like they were in the past. Now kids are learning about all sorts of crazy stuff in school. Yeah. And so I just wanted to come on and say, hey guys, like sleep matters. Sleep is important. Protect your kids. Fight for them because it matters. If you're not going to fight for them, who else will fight for them? Who else is going to do it? There's nobody. You are the people who are going to fight for your kids. You are the people who are going to stand up for them. You are the people who are going to take the bad, take the good with the bad. But guess what? You're fighting the holy fight. It's God's fight. It's fight for the light. So no matter how bad anyone makes you feel or makes you feel like you're crazy, remember, in God's world, you're not crazy because they want to make God's people come off crazy. That's part of the agenda. Like if you're the one speaking God's truth, you're going to be the one made to sound like you're crazy. Welcome on Water says, we all had family weekly meetings where the kids and parents shared everything and anything and worked on things together, teaching them how. Exactly, we do. It has brought forward some gems, like for my kids to be able to come on and share and share stuff that they felt like they couldn't share, right? They couldn't share. But when we've done Circle of Truth and they consistently had a place to come and share what was hard to share. And then my kids would be like, oh my God, Mom, I thought I'd get into trouble for that. And oh my gosh, like I'm so glad I could talk to you. I feel so much better now. I think that we've given them enough like opportunities to realize that it's actually better to come talk to the parents because you won't get into trouble. We are on your side. We are working with you. We are working for you. And we're here to support you. So yeah, obviously the gram is giving my internet problems, but I think we've said what we had to say for today. So anyway, it was awesome to connect with all of you today. And let's keep talking on these topics because clearly they're hitting a big nerve in the community and we should talk about them. We should have a place to come and share. We should have a place to share opinions and thoughts and really get into these discussions. And yes, it keeps freezing because they're realizing it's a topic they don't want me to talk about. So I love you guys. Take care. Have a beautiful weekend. And don't forget, today is the last day tomorrow's the last day to jump on membership. If you guys have questions and you want to join membership with a special deal that we have, 6 months for the price of 5. I keep saying that wrong. Please check that out, okay? Check that out. It's going to be going away soon. And there are questions that you guys posted. I'm going to go in and do some IG responses to them on my stories so that everybody has some responses to their questions. Take care, guys. Thanks for hanging out. It was awesome. Mwah. Bye, everybody.